So you go from being the most highly rated prospect the Red Sox signed in the early 50s. Sometimes a dozen or more scouts come out to watch you play high school ball, and as soon as you graduate, Boston Red Sox scout Mace Brown offers you $50,000, which you take over all the other matched offers. Then, Red Sox owner Tom Yawkey proceeds to tell the world that you can become one of the top ball players of your time. So, how do you go from such a bright outlook and a beaming recommendation to being booed by the fans at Fenway Park so bad that it affects you in more ways than just on the diamond and in the clubhouse, but everywhere you go? Remember, this is Boston. It doesn't help that you can't pick up a newspaper without seeing less than flattering articles written about you, or when you look up from that paper while eating at a diner and you see people looking at you and you know they don't want your autograph. This went on for his entire career in Boston, but the Red Sox stood by Don the whole time. Me, I don't believe in luck. I believe in timing and odds. You're either at the right place at the right time or you're not. It gets back to that sniper's bullet that skipped off the side of your helmet. If the bullet was a fraction closer, it would have pierced your helmet and your brain. It wasn't luck, it was timing. Some ball players are a victim of timing and circumstances. This was the case for Donald Thomas Buddin, nicknamed Buddin, or Hard Luck Buddin, infielder, MLB debut 1956. Those are the kind of nicknames you don't want. Don grew up in Olathe, South Carolina, population less than 1,000. While in high school, Don led 2 teams to state championships, his high school team and his American Legion team. He would enroll at nearby Wofford College for 2 years before becoming a pro ball player for the next 13 years, missing only 1957 while in the military. So let's go and start the show by getting this out of the way first. Don Buddin led the AL in errors for a shortstop in 1958 and 1959 and was in the top 3 as a rookie, in which he had 18 errors in his first 40 games. He would be top 3 in errors again in 1956 and 1960. Yeah, he was pretty consistent. Kind of like his hitting. His batting average was always on the low side for a major leaguer. But in 1958, he was the only AL shortstop with double-digit home runs, and one of 2 in 1959. Good at taking walks, but also struck out a lot. Yet the power was there, hitting 41 homers in his short career. Boston is a tough place to play. Always has been, always will be. If not the fans, it's the TV announcers or the newspaper reporters. One wise guy wrote in his column that Don's license plate should read E6 because of all the errors he makes. So why was he a Red Sox starting shortstop for so many years? Probably because Red Sox owner Tom Yawkey also hailed from South Carolina and was sticking with his own. Plus, Don Buddin was a favorite of manager Pinky Higgins, who said, "You're going to like that little Buddin. He's a peppery kid who's a battler down to the last pitch. Hope nothing ruins his confidence. Confidence is half the battle in the major leagues." Both Tom Yawkey and Pinky Higgins were Southern boys who, shall we say, leaned to the white. In 1959, the Red Sox brought up Pumpsie Green into spring training camp to comply with MLB and to compete with Don for his job at shortstop. Pumpsie batted .400 at camp, yet Don got the job and Pumpsie was sent down. This didn't make the fans happy, who were willing to do anything to erase the past few seasons, even if it meant having a black player on the team to help them improve. Manager Pinky Higgins always said, "There'll be no knickers on this ball club as long as I have anything to say about it." And there wasn't. But Pinky was fired in July of '59 and Pumpsie Green was called up. This was the spring training camp my dad was at and has a few pages of Red Sox signatures in his autograph book, as well as 3 on the cover of a spring training program. It's a cool program. It's got a full-page spread of Ted Williams and one for Jackie Jensen. And I believe this is the first Red Sox publication with a photo of a black player, Pumpsie Green. Don recalled playing with a variety of great ball players and had some really nice roommates over the years in Boston, and talks about Ted Williams like everyone else who was on the same field and watched him hit, saying he was the greatest hitter I ever saw, and as a hitter, had no equal. He was great. He could sit in the dugout and tell you what's coming. He was a mind reader. Don Buddin went on to say how impressed he was with Ted Williams as a fielder. He got to the ball. He could come up with it. I never saw him screw up. He also said Jackie Jensen was a great all-around player. The 1960 season was another so-so season for Don, and didn't help when he was hit in the head by a pitch from Jim Bunning, forcing Don to miss 17 games with a fractured skull. His best season was 1961, but was traded over to the expansion Colt.45's for another shortstop, Eddie Brousseau. April 10th, 1962. It's a brand new MLB season, and for the first time, Don Buddin is a starting shortstop on a team other than the Red Sox. When he was picked to be the opening day starter for the Houston Colt.45's first game in franchise history, a home game in which they beat the Cubs 11-2 with Roman Mejias and Bobby Shantz the heroes in that game. The inaugural game and victory was not very memorable for Don, going hitless in 3 at-bats, but did turn a double play, and a month later would get his memorable moment when he hit the first grand slam in Colt.45's franchise history. Other than that grand slam, his batting was not up to snuff, and he was waived in July and picked up by the Detroit Tigers, and that's where his time in the majors ended. Overall, Don Buddin played 13 seasons of pro ball, 6 in the majors, 7 in the minors. So correspondent Bob Holbrook reported one game at Boston's Fenway Park. The Boston fans were really giving it to Don. They had been booing and yelling all game long. And when there's only 6,000 loyal fans in Fenway, it seems louder, and all the insults seem closer and more personal. And on that night, Don took it to heart. Holbrook said that as the worn-down shortstop was walking up to the plate, he had tears in his eyes. The Red Sox fans, they could care less that Don and his wife lost their infant baby a few years earlier. All they know is their team hasn't been in contention for years, and they need a scapegoat to take out their frustration on. They chose Don Buddin. Sometimes the weight of the world you've been carrying around for years gets too heavy, and at that moment you can't deal with it. And it all catches up to you and then crashes down hard. And in a moment of what some call weakness, you are not considered a man. If this is really true and there were tears in his eyes, I wonder if anyone else noticed. So as Don steps into the batter's box, here comes the usual rain of shouts and boos as it showers down on him. But in a rare moment of bliss, that was few and far in between during his time as a Red Sox, he cracked a 3-run homer to silence his home crowd that didn't know what to do. The Red Sox fans may not have appreciated Don, but his hometown of Olathe did. They renamed their main street after him. So it's a Saturday afternoon game at Fenway Park, and on this day, July 11th, 1959, the Red Sox and the Yankees are all tied up 4-4. It's the bottom of the 10th, and the bases are loaded with 1 out. Bob Turley is on the mound for the Yankees. Don Buddin walks towards what has been an unfriendly batter's box all day, a box he was hoping he wasn't going to have to step into again. Why? Because today he was 0 for 5, striking out twice, and 3 times the ball didn't even get out of the infield. You're hard luck, Buddin. You're at Fenway, your home park, where you've heard things yelled at you about how you play for years. You're used to it by now, but it still doesn't feel good. Red Sox manager Billy Jurgis told reporters after the game he was hoping for a sacrifice fly from Don. No one expected a walk-off grand slam that Don Buddin smacked into the seats for the game winner. A great major league moment for Don Buddin, even though it didn't last long with the Boston fans' big mouths and short memories.